Hey, welcome. In this episode, we're going to discuss dealing with stress and how to relieve stress or support ourselves if we're going through any type of stress. There's a lot happening in the world, on the collective stage, the world stage right now, as we navigate through this pivotal time, through this paradigm shift. So, not only is this Earth School generally potentially very stressful for us, as we navigate through our unique and different classrooms, this actually is an additional period of time that has been uniquely uh, potent for us in its own unique way. So, this episode, we're going to explore a little bit about the different types of stress and then some different suggestions on how to potentially navigate through this stress so that we can come back to a sense of, at the minimum, a sense of more of relief from what we're experiencing, and to the highest potential outcome is to come back to our equilibrium, come back to balance, come back to peace, come back to steadiness, come back to centeredness, and most importantly, just to be able to come back into our heart. The challenge with stress is that it actually creates a disconnect from our heart, and that creates a disconnect or so much turbulence that we're not able to actually hear our soul's guidance in the same way that we can when we're in more calm waters. So interestingly, we have the physical body, which is our most dense element or level, and then we have the emotional plane, the emotional body, and that's the next level of density. And then we have our mental sphere, mental body, and then we have our etherical and auric, and then etc. So what happens when we're in stress usually is we start to disconnect, our nervous system gets activated, which we'll talk about in a second, and that creates a lot of turbulence in the physiology and the physical body, because we go into the sympathetic nervous system, we go into fight or flight because we're going into survival mode. And then we also start to usually experience a lot of turbulence in our emotional bodies as well. So we're experiencing terror, fear, or panic, or resistance. Really, what stress is when we're actually resisting what is happening. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. So we can feel grief, we can feel loneliness, we can feel all sorts of emotional pain. And what that does is it creates more turbulence. So that creates a setup for us to have a harder time hearing our soul's guidance, as well as trying to just get clarity on what is it that we need throughout. So it's a really great idea for us as we navigate through these times to have kind of like a toolkit, or have some things already set into place, so that when we are experiencing this, because we will experience these times, there's a lot of ebb and flow rhythms right now. And so when we go into those places of stress or of tension or of just kind of emotional intensity, then it's a beautiful thing for us to be able to have things already set into place that we can start to train ourselves to go to. And the more we work with those tools and techniques, the easier it is to have on our radar when stress does arise. And we can navigate out of our stressful response or state much more quickly and with much more ease and lightness and grace and supportiveness. We want to, really be able to support ourselves so we can come back as quick as possible into our heart space, into our center, into our body being grounded and being calm. Because that's when we can start to really hear our soul's guidance, and our soul's guidance is clear. Us connecting to our soul's guidance is not always easy, because our soul is very subtle and it whispers in a sense, it's not going to force. So it's the personality level or the physiology, our physical body, that we're learning, to really start to work with in regards to stress. So when we're in stressful periods and the waters of our emotions are very wavy and turbulent, it's harder for us to really connect to that soul's guidance. And our soul has our blueprint. It's going to be able to give us more meaning as to whatever it is that we're experiencing. And it's going to be able to help us to come back to more ease, more lightness, more relief, more peace, more love, more kindness, whatever it is that's needed. So the first thing really we want to do is address our physiology and address our emotional states. Okay, so there's a lot of kickback, a lot of repercussions for being in stress too. So There's a lot of illnesses that can present. There's a lot of symptoms that can present. Premature aging can happen. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we now know that stress really is just such a culprit about. And so, one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves as we navigate through stress is actually becoming more self aware of how we're feeling and where we're at and how we are responding. So, that could be starting to a couple times throughout the day, just start to check in. An invitation is to do this as well when things are going well, because it's always more difficult when we're going through something that's challenging to try and tune back into how we're feeling or coming back within, because we're going to be pulled out much more from whatever's happening or from our emotions or our thoughts or our physical response. The more we practice this when things are calm and going well and going smoothly, we're creating pathways, including in our body. We're literally creating new neurocircuitry pathways and new patterns. So it's already there, much easier to come back to. And the more we practice it, that can actually create more of a foundation. So we might even not even have the same stress responses eventually. So navigating through, first and foremost, is checking in with ourselves a few times a day if we can. Just checking in. How am I feeling in my body? Where am I holding tension? How's my breath? One of the biggest stress techniques or tools that we can utilize for ourselves is the breath. So checking in on our breath. Is my breath shallow? Is it deep? Can I take a deep breath? Can I come back to my breath? Our breath will indicate to us where we're at. Our breath will indicate if it's shallow or I can't catch my breath. That's indicating to me that I'm in potentially more of a stress mode. If I can start to calm and relax and connect to my breath, the breath is going to help us activate that parasympathetic nervous system, taking us out of fight or flight and coming back into our body, to the present moment, to our heart, and then to much more relief or calm. So the breath is definitely one of the biggest tools that we can utilize for ourselves. So again, if it resonates with you, setting up some type of daily practice where you're tuning into your breath or doing some type of breath meditation, or most importantly, just really knowing yourself and knowing what your own tells are, knowing what your own rhythm is, so that you have a sense of, I'm starting to get pulled out. Can I come back into my breath? And the more that we're kind of checking in throughout the day, the more we'll be able to know not only where we're responding to stress, but maybe also where we're getting influenced or hijacked by the energies that we're around, or the stories that are coming at us, or things that we're being exposed to, including things we're not aware of, such as the collective energy, because there's a lot of tragedy and tumultuousness and just a lot of suffering that's happening right now, and a lot of just it's a lot of pain in that. And so we're influenced or affected by that, whether we're tuned into it or not, because as we go more into these higher frequencies, we're absolutely coming into more of this connection consciousness, which means that we are going to be potentially affected even if we're not aware. But the positive of that is we also can affect outward through our vibration and through our frequency too. So again, the more we can come and calm ourselves and come out of a stress mode, quicker we can come back into alignment to our heart, alignment to love, or alignment to peace. And then we're starting to actually create that ripple effect and create that influence and impact to the collective world. And that's one of the most powerful ways that we can actually start to help to create change, especially if we don't know how to create change, and that's creating stress or hopelessness or frustration. So, there's a lot of different chronic stresses that we deal with. So there's acute stress, which is more intense and more in the moment. And then there's also chronic stress. So chronic stress can be dealing with a long-term trauma for a long period of time. It could be you're a single parent and you've been dealing with that stress for a long period of time and you're not getting a break. You don't have a lot of support in that, or you don't feel that you have a lot of support in that. There's just a lot of, there's just a lot on your plate. Dealing with a long-term illness, or you're caregiving for somebody else that's aging or has long-term illness. So again, maybe you're in a position where you don't necessarily have a lot of say in certain things at this time. And so that's creating a lot of limitation. That's creating a lot of stress. And it could be also that you're just feeling a lot of stress around how things are playing out, financial stress. I mean, there's so many things that we could be really stressed about dealing with our classrooms. And again, stress, we're learning how to be in the flow and to allow. So the more we're able to approach whatever's showing up for us from that point of why is this showing up for me? What's my opportunity in this experience? That will help right there start to relax us, because a lot of stress, the stress responses are resistance to whatever is happening and whatever is showing up. When we start to feel overwhelmed, that could be just, again, we're out of our center, we're out of our heart space. We could be resisting, but we could also actually just have too much coming at us. And sometimes that's an indication we need to just come back into our hearts and come back into our center, get grounded, connect to our breath, and then start to be able to go back and approach whatever's happening from a different perspective, from a different place. But sometimes we really do need to come back in, and sometimes we need to create a space, some time in order to do that. So sometimes we need right now maybe a little bit more alone time or quiet time, or time where you can just remove yourself. And if you're in a position where that's not possible, you have a lot of people in your home, or you're taking care of a lot of people, it could be just, again, going into the bathroom for a minute and connecting to your breath. So again, it doesn't have to be a lot, huge periods of time. It's more just about these micro minutes throughout the day where we're able to just tune in and come back into our breath, or come back into our center. And it could be even just in that moment setting that intention. I intend calm. I intend to come into my heart, or I intend, and then you can fill in the blank, whatever you feel you may need at that time. So acute stress is more, again, really kind of intense, showing up quickly, showing up in kind of like a shorter period of time, and then chronic is longer period. What we're going to talk about today really could be addressing either of them, because the framework or the format in this episode that we're going to talk about dealing with stress is coming from a platform of space or state change. So, and we can use these through our day to day, because ultimately that is really one of the most beneficial platforms for us to cultivate self-awareness and to help ourselves to manage our energies, manage our emotions, or manage whatever is going on with our life. The more we can come into our day to day, stay in the present moment, we're going to be able to kind of navigate through whatever is showing up for us. And we'll have that, again, that training, and we'll have that those tools and techniques accessible to us if we've been kind of preparing them ahead, so we kind of have some things to go to. Okay, so space change is literally changing our space. That could be our environment. So it could be, I'm feeling like I need to move some energy. I don't know how to move energy. It could be just changing your room around. It could be changing or organizing your environment in some way. So it could be cleaning. It could be purging. It could be reorganizing something. And it could also, because it moves energy, and whatever's the energy in our environment is a reflection of our inner energy. So we heal in two ways. We heal from outer to inner, or inner to outer. So this changing our environment helps actually move energy from within us. And the other thing with a space change is literally could be changing a room. Like you're in a specific room, doesn't feel peaceful and calm. Is there another room that we could go to? We're at a gathering, and all of a sudden we're starting to feel panicky, anxious, stressed. So it could be, okay, I have to go to the washroom for a minute and put my hands under water. Water is an amazing element to help us to navigate through stress, because water is actually symbolic of emotions. So say you're in a space like that, you can actually just place your hands right under the water fountain, like under the water tap, and just breathe for a couple minutes and hold the water, let it run through your palms. This actually helps to calm, and then you can take a moment again, just connecting to your breath, and then go back out when you feel you're ready. Also, when we're feeling really emotionally intense, really emotionally off, really triggered emotionally, downing a couple glasses of water can also be extremely quickly neutralizing. So back to space change. So we could move a room, change a room, go outside of a room. We could, if we're outside, we can go inside for a minute, maybe just feel a little bit more contained and calm. If we're inside and we're feeling claustrophobic or we're feeling we need some air, then it could be we remove ourselves and we go outside. Bare feet on the grass, nature is always one of the best ways to deal with stress. Or just if it's freezing out, if you live in a climate that can be very cold or damp, it could be again just going out and taking a minute to just really connect to the sounds that are outside. So it could be the sounds of the nature, it could be just the feel of the wind, the temperature change, again, reconnecting to the breath, coming into the body. So space change is basically just creating some type of change that we can navigate through our choice of change. State change State change is actually where we're working on frequency. So remember, we have the nervous system is what really gets triggered when we're in stress. So we go into fight or flight. And this can also, you don't have to dive too much into this, but sometimes it won't always make sense what our response is to stress. And that's because there can be unresolved trauma in our bodies or in our psyche or in our Akashic records. Certain programming gets activated, certain memories get activated. So something happens, or we could even hear a loud noise. That can actually trigger a trauma response. And so sometimes it doesn't always make sense why we're having a trauma or stress response, because it could be that programming is getting activated or some type of psychic memory or wound is being activated. So again, same thing. We still want to deal with it because it's still happening now and it's energy, right? So we want to look at everything as from that energetic perspective. If it's showing up in some form or fashion for me as a symptom or as a response, I want to move the energy. I want to work with balancing, harmonizing, transforming, or transmuting that energy. So sometimes it's about changing the frequency. Again, coming back into breath, going into nature. It could be changing the frequency through intention of dancing it out or being creative, again, depending on the intensity. At first, if it's super intense, you might just, at first down a couple glasses of water, or at first just be able to just, rub your palms together for a minute. We have pressure points in our palms and our feet. So rubbing palms together is a good way to also just start to relax and bring some calm back into us, starting to move that energy. It could be doing stronger breath, like breath of fire. It could be doing strong dance, strong exercise, getting a sweat going in the body. When possible, sometimes again, it's really relaxing the body and releasing tension. So again, it's what is my response? How intense is it? And what am I actually capable and able to do in this moment? So again, the more we know ourselves and the more we have some things set up, the easier it is for us to be able to go to that tool or technique that we need. And we can right in that moment, what do I need right now? What does my body need right now? What do I need to calm myself right now? Or to feel safe or to feel grounded? Do I just need to get into my body? So there could be a lot of different things that we can do there. So changing frequency, in more acute stages, you're probably going to be dealing with more bringing breath in or moving the body again in some type of more strong, intentional way. And then it could also be in a more chronic situation or just in a general way. If you have more chronic anxiety or you're more feeling chronically stressed and you're able to, then it could be actually starting to incorporate other things that change our frequency in the day to day. So it could be actually increasing more water through the day. Food has a frequency. When we're more stressed, the acidic level in our body goes up. So we want to try and incorporate bringing more alkalinity into our body as an example. So it could be drinking alkaline water. It could be bringing more fruits and vegetables or food that has prana, so food that is alive, so whole grains, fruits, veggies, things like that. So, for example, mixing pineapple and oranges together create a really high vibe, and that can actually help eliminate stress and even sadness or depression. So it's not a panacea, but it's something that we can start to, again, these are little choices that we can start to do to incorporate in our day that can help us navigate and start to change the frequency. And we can come at this from many different ways, not just one way. So we could look at how can we incorporate food. The invitation too is when we are experiencing a lot of stress, is to be really gentle with ourselves, like not trying to all of a sudden be like, I'm going to stop this, or I'm going to do this. Like, it's just really being able to navigate through in a very gentle way. And if you feel like you're under chronic stress and you do need to incorporate some things, you want to incorporate some things to help and support you, then maybe start small. Start with one thing a day. Like, it could be, I'm going to incorporate pineapples and oranges in my day once a day. I'm just gonna start to up my water every day. I'm gonna start to just connect to my breath every day. Or I'm going to start to just set my timer on my phone or watch to go off every couple hours, so I can just tune in to myself and start to relax, noticing where I'm feeling any tension, and start to just allow myself to come back into my heart space. Sometimes it's very helpful to create an actual daily practice as well. So we're then consistently changing our frequency through our daily practice. So that could be, again, going into some type of meditation, or maybe you like to go for a run, or maybe you like to play guitar, or you like to build something or do something with your hands, or what inspires you, what brings lightness, what brings joy, what is fueling or feeling good for you. Like, that's what we want to kind of incorporate with. So it's not, again, we don't want to be really hard on ourselves and say we have to do something, we should be doing something. So we want to stay, out of that trap, especially if we're already feeling stressed. We want to support ourselves in such a gentle, loving way, so that we're starting to set our day up and our environment up, that we're cultivating as much as we can to support ourselves, so that we can come back into some, again, relief, depending on the intensity that you're maybe feeling, or the level of grief you might be in at the time, or anxiety, to, again, just, building on that. And when able, then starting to add more. And the invitation is add. The more we're actually adding and fueling our vitality, so the more we're increasing our vitality, our life force in our body, automatically and organically, we will start to want to incorporate and navigate towards other things that continue that. So as we start to be able to hold higher frequencies, come into our heart and come into our soul's connection and guidance, the more we'll want to do that, because we won't feel good when we come out of that. We'll be more aware of it. So again, the invitation is really gentle. Sometimes we need some physiological support too. So if you've been in chronic stress for a long period of time, that can wreak havoc, or even long-term grief or intense grief. That can wreak a lot of havoc on our adrenals, not just the nervous system, but the adrenals and the endocrine system. So there's other things that we may need. We may need to go, get that checked out and see if we need any physical support as well, because that can be huge in and of itself. That can not always, that can cause a lot of symptoms that we feel are stressful symptoms, but they can also definitely exacerbate any stressful symptoms that we have, and it's harder sometimes to kind of get out of it. So that would be also some of the questions navigating through stressful times, is what does my body need for support, and how can I explore that to get the support that I need, or just to kind of make sure that everything's covered in that way, or okay in that way, balanced in that way. What do I need emotionally? What do I need mentally? So again, our thoughts, this is changing frequency, paying attention when we can to where our thoughts are going, and our thoughts cultivating us to come into more calm, more peace, more gentleness, and more feeling safe, depending on what we're experiencing, or our thoughts cultivating that and creating more havoc. And that's not always easy to get our thoughts under control. So again, what kind of tools and techniques can we set up in order to support our thoughts? So that could be affirmations, it could be journaling, it could be really starting to kind of give conscious energy to what it is that we want to align to, create, and experience. And that could be writing that out daily. It could be intending that out daily. It could be really focusing every day on what is actually really working well, what is good. Even if it's only one thing out of 20 things, can we start to focus on what is actually, working well, what is going good, what is safe, things like that. That can help us right there change our vibration and our alignment. And so if we can start to give more energy towards what we want to experience and what we want to feel, that starts to automatically neutralize some of the stress response. Emotionally processing is very important as well as we're going through stress, because we're going to have, again, this kickback emotionally. Usually we're going to have some intensity. So when possible, when you feel calm enough, if this resonates, the invitation is to come back into the body. Okay, so what's my response here? Okay, I'm feeling anxious. Where am I feeling anxiety? Feeling it in my chest, or I'm feeling it in my stomach. I'm feeling it in my head. So then we would want to just start to focus on that area and then start to breathe, move towards it and start to meet it, start to breathe into it, and then just start to hang with it until it starts to lighten or it starts to dissipate completely. Sometimes it'll move, so we want to follow it if we can. If at any time it feels too intense or too much, then we want to give ourselves that for sure permission to pull out, right? We're the ones with the reins here. So we are, when we can, we're following it. And sometimes it goes to a different area of the body. Sometimes all of a sudden you started out and you were feeling anxiety, and then you realize, oh wow, actually I'm feeling grief. Underneath that was grief. So sometimes it's a little bit of a process. Sometimes we just need to actually hang with it for a couple seconds. Sometimes, depending on how deep and intense it is, how long it's been there, it could be that we need to come back to it, just train ourselves every time it shows up. And sometimes, some days, that might come up every couple of minutes or every hour. And some days it might feel like that's our full-time job right now, is doing that. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just, there's a lot of energy to it, and we need to just allow ourselves when we can to keep coming back and processing it. Then we're transmuting it, because we can redirect ourselves. And sometimes that's very important and powerful. Redirecting. I'm not giving this energy, I'm redirecting to something else. When we're dealing with energy, we can't fool energy. So it's so important that we also, when we are able to process that emotion or that energy, because otherwise it'll build and build, because that's just the physics of energy. It's the law of energy. It'll build and build. And then it ends up just kind of coming out in an outburst, or it'll come in as a symptom in some way, mentally, emotional, or physical. Or it just really starts to exacerbate even more our stress symptoms. It gets harder and harder on our nervous system and our endocrine system to be able to handle, the energy that we're trying to deal with. So the other thing with frequency is really knowing what does feel good for you. So it could be, again, that's going to be your own, like, invitation is sit down and start to write out things that you could do when you're feeling really intense that you might need to do. And it could be some things that you do like more longer term. So it could be meditation for some. For others, it could be being creative. For somebody else, it could be dancing. For somebody else, it could be I'm going to go cook something. For somebody else, it could be I'm going to go sweep my floor. It's about the moving of energy, right? And sometimes we need to move energy a little bit in a specific way, and then we can start to get into some of the deeper things that really get us into our hearts, or deeper alignment or deeper connection to a higher frequency like love or like peace. Can be very much a process, again, depending on what is happening there. There's a lot of beautiful supportive therapies out there too now. Bach flower therapy works on helping the personality deal with the actual emotions that, the soul's going through a classroom. The personality is the one that's got to navigate through. The physical body is the one that's got to keep up. So there's things like Bach flowers, homeopathic medicine, there's sound therapy, reflexology, art therapy, music therapy. There's so many different things. So again, exploring for you what really resonates and what do I feel I could start to bring in, and ultimately what's going to help me to raise my vibe and keep my vibe. That's really one of the most important things, navigating at this point through these times, is what is going to actually keep my vibe up high. So what can I incorporate and implement in my day that's realistic for my situation or my life, and what can I start to do to bring that in? that's going to help me to support me. So it could be reading one quote that's inspirational a day, or it could be listening to your favorite song every day, or reading your favorite poem. I mean, it could be anything. Like, you're going to know for yourself what it is that you need. And that's going to also help connect more with your own inner resonance, which is the second most important thing. Well, it's actually the first most important thing, is being able to connect to our soul's guidance. But to get into a space to do that, especially when we're dealing with a lot of stress or a lot of grief or a lot of trauma or a lot of pain, that's not easy. So baby stepping it, giving ourselves that permission to just really come back into, our own center, our own energy field, and remember to talk yourself up, talk yourself up in the sense of, remember that you're a beautiful, unique person, and you're here for an experience, here to learn, grow, and heal something. And you might not feel it at the time, but you have so much strength within. And if you can't touch that at all, don't forget to ask for support. We are in the school of free will, which means that we have so much available support for us spiritually or energetically. We have to ask for that guidance or for that support, though, because they can't just intervene or interfere because of the free will principle. So when we can always ask in that moment, like, I'm drowning here. Can you just set up some extra support for me, or, show me what I need to help me navigate so that I can see this differently, or I can feel some relief. So guide me. We're the ones doing it. We're the ones in the body. But when we start to ask, how can I see this differently? Or can you just shower me with light, or shower me with grace, or I'm open to grace. So, I'm open and receptive. I'm ready and willing, and I'm open to start to feel relief, or to see this differently, or to just be open to spiritual strength. Or can you, kind of support me with extra strength or extra supporting guidance and healing at this time? So whatever resonates with you and whatever you feel that you're able to do at the time. So space change, state change. Remember to address our nervous system. What can we do to get our parasympathetic nervous system activated? A lot of information out there right now on the vagus nerve. So again, meditation, breathing, cold water therapy is amazing for that. And relaxation, releasing tension from the body. And then what can we do to change our frequency, to move energy, change the energy, transform or transmute the energy, or start to just kind of shift it? So again, it doesn't have to be big. It could be super little. I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to go sweep my floor. I'm going to go water my plants. It could be something where we're just, and if you feel like you're really on the ground or really stressed or paralyzed from anxiety, it could be, okay, I'm just going to place my hand on my heart, and I'm just going to start there. I'm just going to place my hand on my heart for a minute. That's it. And again, it doesn't have to be big things. The key is meet yourself where you're at. If you can ask for support, physically, if that's available to you, and if not, ask for spiritual support, ask for spiritual guidance and help, and come back into your heart when you can, and know that you're loved. All right, wishing you much peace and ease as we navigate through these times, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Namaste.